happens. Sometimes there's this thing with the track violations as well, right? Sometimes they just let it be. Okay, fine, it happened. But the thing is, when it happened again, so then it became problematic for them.
But you send a warning.
If you send a warning, you can't let ultimately leave it at that, because any team can have a look at those logs and say that according to the regulations, here's the penalty. Give him a penalty.
Sure,
give
but
him
if you penalize it the second time, then it was essentially the exact same situation. So other teams can then go, why wasn't he given a penalty for the first one?
Yeah, precisely.
So it's the same thing as just giving a warning. My point is,
but you can't give a warning, right? Because there are no mitigating factors.
You can send it to stewards, so it's investigated, right?
Yeah, if it is investigated, he's given a penalty.
Cool.
Okay, so after some shitty news, let's pivot to a more
exciting topic.
News. Yeah, more exciting
Oscar's
topic.
Penalty. No.
By the way, okay, just to touch on it, he was not robbed. There are rules and regulations written. Read the FIA document. And if you do not read the FIA document, you try to use your common sense. Good, use it. But the FIA documents don't use common sense more often than not. So here's the thing. Read the FIA document. If you do not agree with it, drop your whatever views you have in the comment section. We'll take a look at it and I'll probably answer. Now let's talk about the more...
one last thing, because we'll probably do Hulkenberg and then jump into some questions real quick to finish off. But the last thing I'll say on the Oscar thing is I'm not even that aggrieved that he got the penalty for there was a penalty for that, because I understand why they have to be careful with this. There was Mugello 2020, those Constantine FX. I get it, right? I get it's a safety thing and I get the penalty. My only grievance with that penalty, and the reason I think he shouldn't have gotten it, is he did the exact same thing on lap 17, right? And they didn't apply the penalty then. And the reasoning was basically something along the lines of, it was kind of on the limit, but it was basically the exact same thing. Same thing.
They talked about it. I'm not sure they talked about it in that, or John Noble did an article on it where he explained it. So what happened here was he could have gotten a penalty for the first one as well. They just let it go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what you can't do that though.
Right? Ideally, yes, you can't.
But at the very least,
if someone had complained,
at the very least, if you're going to say we're like this is worth a penalty, but we're going to let it go, you absolutely in that case should have to. There should be some sort of regulation to say if it went to the stewards and or like the race directors thought about it that way, they should at least have to call up the team and say, hey, just letting you know that was right on the limit, and if that happens again, it will be a penalty.
No, I don't agree with it. The reason is...
But he did the exact same thing twice.
Yeah, I know.
So you have to get... That's not consistent.
The reason why that happened is the first one, they thought, okay, fine, just let it go. In terms of... Happens. Sometimes there's this thing with the track violations as well, right? Sometimes they just let it be. Okay, fine, it happened. But the thing is, when it happened again, so then it became problematic for them.
But you send a warning.
If you send a warning, you can't let ultimately leave it at that, because any team can have a look at those logs and say that according to the regulations, here's the penalty. Give him a penalty.
Sure, but if you penalize it the second time, then it was essentially the exact same situation. So other teams can then go, why wasn't he given a penalty for the first one?
Yeah, precisely.
So it's the same thing as just giving a warning. My point is...
But you can't give a warning, right? Because there are no mitigating factors.
You can send it to stewards, so it's investigated, right?
Yeah, if it is investigated, he's given a penalty. Because going from 220 to 250 is
that's my whole point. It's inconsistent. Because what happens then is drivers go, well, I did it like 10 laps before and it was fine. So now you can't justify the exact same thing and giving a penalty.
Why it is justified is because it's in the rules.
But then you have to penalize it both times. This is why people get annoyed about But this is why people get annoyed about bias and so on. Like, you can't just let it go once and then the exact same thing happens again. Unless, like, the only way you should be able to do that is if they put something in the regulations to go, okay, if stewards think something was on the limit or if there was mitigating circumstances, they can give warnings. and basically like that they have to
You
do that.
can't,
Otherwise
right?
you have to,
Because then you have
yeah,
to-
but either
Yeah.
that or you have to penalize it both times. You can't
problem
have this
is-
in between of going,
Yeah, 'cause
well, we're not going to
they've-
warn him, but we're going to give him a penalty because he did it twice. But in the regulations, it doesn't say if he does it again. It doesn't say that in the regulations.
No, the regulation is whenever you do it, you are going to get a penalty. But
Yeah.
whether it is supposed to be a penalty or not is something that is left to the judgment of the stewards.
Yeah.
So they looked at it on the first.
But if the
okay,
stewards
fine,
looked at it,
happens.
it wasn't even investigated. It wasn't sent
Yeah,
to the
if it
stewards
was
for
investigated,
investigation.
it would have been a penalty.
Yeah. So this is my point. So
Yeah.
you can't have the same situation twice.
Yeah,
In the exact same race.
Because giving a penalty and whatever penalty points or whatever the penalty is, it comes down to the stewards. That kind of discretion is left to them.
Mm-hmm.
So as you've seen, right, the Lando penalty, which was, what was it? The crash with Oscar. He was given a
Yeah,
5-second penalty, but usually
For
causing
mid-
a collision is 10-second
10
penalty.
seconds. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that is something that is down to the steward's discretion. So that's
Yeah.
why they didn't give a penalty on the first one. That level of flexibility is given to them.
Sure,
And
yeah.
People can talk about bias here. I can understand that. But every time your favorite driver does not or gets a penalty or does not get a penalty,
I don't think
not
it's bias. My problem
Yeah.
is I think that it causes, like doing it in the way they did it, where you kind of go, oh, yeah, we probably would penalize that, but we'll let
Yeah.
it go, right?
It's
If
the
that's
same as that,
thinking-
right?
but
Why
that's
did
the
Lando get
problem
only a
with the-
5-second penalty?
Sure, yeah, but the
Right.
problem with that is like I don't really care who gets a penalty or when, but
Yeah.
it should be consistent. Like it should. You
Yeah.
can't just go like, oh well, because then what happens is right. He didn't get a penalty the first time. He does the exact same thing the second time. My thinking on that is, well, hold on. Like obviously, if I'm the driver and I just did it and I got away with it, then you've told me like without telling me. Okay, so that is allowed. Then I'm allowed to do that. So
Yeah, but
obviously, I'm
that
going to do
also
it
comes
again.
down to, again, on this very same thing.
See, yeah, I know what you're
Two
saying, the
incidents.
rules or whatever. Yeah.
That's the thing. The
But the
discretion
point
of
is-
a penalty, it comes down to the stewards.
Sure,
That level of freedom they are given.
But why did they let it go the first time?
That's what they thought. They said, okay, fine, let it be. Why? Because
Yeah,
first
but
of all, it was wet.
It can't just be like,
Second-
we don't really feel like penalizing him this time.
It's not that. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
But that's what it looks like. You know what I mean? That's what it comes across. Because if you said, like,
in the
that
same
was on
way, in the same way, the Lando 5-second and a normal 10-second penalty
yeah, but you
would
can
also
argue
be interpreted
mitigating
that way, right?
circumstances there. And
There aren't circumstances. What
the
what
mitigating circumstances is it's the same team and they don't want to bash each other over it.
Yeah, that's not a mitigating
No,
circumstance.
I know it's not, but at least you can argue that if you wanted to. My
Yeah,
point
you can
is,
argue it,
but they will have argued. I'm sure if we look at the document, there is a mitigating circumstance in there. They would have to have given one to give the 5-second penalty.
they didn't write mitigating circumstances as such. I don't think the first incident was even mentioned in the doc. It was mentioned in John Noble's explanation where he actually revealed that Oscar had done it twice. They
No,
saw
I mean
it
for the
first
Lando
time.
thing. I'm sure there was
Okay,
a
okay,
mitigating circumstance in the document because
I
to
don't
give a
remember,
5-second
yeah.
penalty, they would have to have put a mitigating circumstance in there.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember. Yeah,
But this is just my problem with it. It's just like it can't just be.
I'm not a huge fan of.
Especially when it was the same. It was the same brake, right? It was the same. It actually braked. He actually braked less aggressively on the second time than he did on the first one.
Yeah, the pace differential was lesser in the second
But
one.
but the way he braked as well was a lot. It was the same amount of pressure almost, but it was like he let off a lot quicker and stuff, whatever it was. Yeah. But yeah, like my whole point is just like if you're going to penalize,
I know
for
what
the
you mean.
exact same thing, it should either be a situation of okay, look, we'll do something where we think something's on the limit and we can warn the team, right? I think that's only fair because otherwise you get into a situation of the race director and stewards are basically going, well, we didn't really think that one was over. But it's like, what do you mean? Like the rules were either broken or they weren't. It's not like, oh, we didn't really think so. There should be like some sort of reasoning behind it. Not, yeah, we kind of just let the first one go. It's like, so hold on. So now we get in, because that becomes very problematic if that was Lando Norris that got penalized. Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, you know, or like if it's Max, imagine if that was Max who got penalized, you know, why didn't you penalize him the first time? Like you just, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's just, it has a bad look, you know. Yeah, but anyway, sorry, Nico Hülkenberg.
Oh yeah, Nico Hülkenberg. Yeah, I mean, yeah, screw Oscar. Oh, by the way, one thing a lot of people didn't touch on. My view, I think Lando would have still won the race if not for the penalty.
Ooh. That depends, honestly, on... Yeah. I guess it depends on how McLaren
He was 5
deals with
seconds,
things, but
5 or
yeah.
6 seconds behind, or I don't know, 7 seconds behind something. He brought it down to a second and he just coasted from that point onwards. He could have,
Yeah.
he was told that Oscar has a penalty, you don't need to do anything untoward. And he coasted. And he had enough pace to easily get a job
Maybe.
done.
The question is whether he runs into the back of Oscar or not trying to overtake, I guess. So.
I mean, Silverstone is wide enough, but you never underestimate Lando's brilliance when it comes to these things.
Lando's ability to throw away a done deal. Yeah.
Yeah.